There's always this question, what came first, the points or the channel? But in 1973, they discovered the Mao Wan Dui cultivation. They discovered the oldest discovery regarding acupuncture, and they found writings that were describing the channels, 11 channels with no points. So today we understand that the channels were before the points, and they treated on these, they were lines, 11 lines. And on these lines, they did moxibation or bian. They used stone, and also did bloodletting. And they were working on areas. And in Macedon, it's the same. We are working on areas all the time.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Geological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. AI is a terrific tool. It imparts superpowers in terms of collating information in a way that makes it feel like knowledge. The problem is that while AI augments, it does not build actual capacity. When it comes to working out a difficult problem, having the solution handed to you does not make you better, it makes you dependent. We talk a lot about cultivation as being part of an East Asian medicine practitioner. Part of that cultivation is being able to work out difficult problems over the course of days, months, maybe even years. Anyone with AI and the capacity to use needles can be as skilled as you if you're not doing the thinking. You need the fundamentals running smoothly in your neurological circuitry. It's essential to know the channels like you know your house in the dark, and to be on a first-name basis with a cadre of points in such a way that you know their off-label uses. A nurse practitioner with a box of acupuncture needles and AI is probably ahead of you if you've got a doctorate and you are relying on a Facebook chat for ideas on treating patients without having done the homework of working out what you already know, what you don't, and have some clarity on where and how you're concerned about a case. Having an advanced degree will not help you to trust your work if you've augmented your knowledge without simultaneously increasing your understanding. This might be old-fashioned, but if you're relying on search to generate treatment plans, even if that search is correct and your patients are getting better, the problem is you don't get better at being a practitioner. A secondary side effect is if you have a glimmer of imposter syndrome, then it's going to get worse the more you use AI, Google, or acupuncturist on Facebook to solve clinical problems for you because you didn't actually do the work. And when you don't do the hard work, then it's difficult to believe yourself when you say, I know. I'm not advocating for an AI-free world. Far from it. I find it to be a useful tool and helpful when engaged to help you to learn. But there is a risk, and the risk is having the AI give you the answers instead of using AI to help you work out the answers for yourself. That's the difference that makes a difference. That's how you go from being dependent on technology to using it to help you clarify your thinking and develop your capacity. When I first got to Taiwan, the Pleco Chinese translation tool had just become available for the Palm Pilot. For all y'all that don't know what that was, the Palm Pilot was a small handheld calendar with handwriting recognition and a few app-like add-ons. Having Pleco meant I didn't have to schlep around a big heavy dictionary. I still had to look up words all the time, but I could do it by writing the character instead of looking up the radical and counting strokes, which not only saved a lot of time, but as a bonus, I also learned how to write Chinese. Technology and learning resources for acupuncture have progressed wildly since the days of the Palm Pilot. Now we can carry libraries of information in the palm of our hand, and yet the actual learning of acupuncture, that can't be offloaded to our exonervous system. That is still something that requires thoughtful attention, effort, and a kind of willingness to break our mental models so that something new can be learned. In this conversation with Shaun Goodman, we discuss Tung acupuncture. This is a way of thinking about and practicing acupuncture that doesn't fit neatly into the map of TCM. It asks you to take what you know and hold it lightly so as to allow for another way of thinking and practice to take root. Shaun has been practicing Tung-style acupuncture for a while now and has also spent some time in Taiwan studying it there too. In addition to what he's learned there, his own experience and the work of Paul Nogier has given him some insights that he'll be sharing in this conversation. We're going to get into it. Stay with us. Geological Conversations are brought to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinic challenges, our sponsors have solutions. Would you like to be able to better help your patients by understanding their blood work? Jessica Parker can take you on that journey. What's better than cupping? Cupping squared. John Stan has more on that in just a moment. Later in the show, you'll hear how my office runs smoothly with Jane, and Blue Poppy reminds us there's no such thing as a small detail. Your focus and intention are important. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Geological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. What I find really fascinating about Dr. Jessica Parker's work is that she's solving a real problem that we all see in our practices. Patients coming in with labs that say everything is normal, but they're clearly not feeling well. They're exhausted, they're struggling, and they feel unheard. Dr. Parker teaches acupuncturists exactly how to read those labs differently, not as a Western doctor would, but through the lens of Eastern medicine and functional analysis. She shows you which tests to order, how to interpret them, and most importantly, how to finally give your patients the answers they've been searching for. If you've ever wanted to add this powerful diagnostic tool to your practice, her 10-week functional medicine cohort for acupuncturists is exactly what you need. You can learn more at drjessicaparker.com and learn how to see what others are missing.
Question: why do cupping marks not appear as strongly after repeated cupping sessions over a few weeks? If you've been doing regular cupping on patients, you've probably noticed this phenomenon. The fact that it happens is one of the main reasons to offer cupping to stressed areas of the body regularly, as part of a prevention program. Hi, John Stan here, inventor of the Fascia Buddy Square Cupping System. I invite you to visit fasciabuddy.com/geological and watch my short video where I discuss cupping marks with one of my colleagues, and we explore an important question: are they a bruise or a capillary bed flush? Check it out. And while you're there, sign up on the Fascia Buddy website to stay informed of the latest developments in cupping, and as a thank you, you'll receive a free, downloadable 5-minute low back, hip, and IT band protocol that you can share with your patients. Until next time, happy square cupping.
Shaun Goodman, welcome to Geological.
I'm very happy to be here.
I am happy to have you here. Today we're going to be talking about the acupuncture from Taiwan. We're going to be talking about, okay, I'm going to ask you about this. Is it pronounced dong or tongue? Usually you see it spelled in English as tongue, but I know you've spent time in Taiwan. How's it pronounced?
It's dong.
It's dong. That's what I thought. Yeah.
There was Whale Giles' way of writing Roman Chinese in Roman characters. And that's today they, for respect, when Master Dong was lived his life, that was the way they wrote Chinese characters. So for respect of him, we still write it TH, but it's pronounced Dong.
Right. Well, when I was in Taiwan, this was a while ago, they freely mixed up Wade Giles with pinyin. So you could be looking at one street sign on one side of the street, it was written one way, and you go down a block and it was written a different way. Same street, different writing. It's like, better learn some Chinese quick. Anyway, you've been doing Dong style acupuncture, I guess, for a while. How did you come to this? I suspect you didn't begin with Dong style. I suspect, like many of us, you entered through the gate of TCM. How did you find your way to this particular method?
I think, like a lot of people, they started through the balance method. In 2007, I studied the balance method with Ilan Migdali. He was really one of Richard Tan's first students in America, and he came to teach. And that's where I came familiar with Master Dong's acupuncture, because Richard Tan used a lot of Master Dong's points. So Ilan Migdali, he was really interested in the points, and then he said, listen, there's a book by Yang that is talking about the points. So I bought the book, and I was really very mad at the beginning when I saw that book. It was like...
Mad?
Yeah, got frustrated. I said, what are all these strange numbers? And there's only indications, and there's no functions, and so many points on the fingers with strange numbers. And what's the logic? Well, I don't understand what these points were. But I don't know, maybe I was drawn to it also. I was it was really getting me pissed off, but I was trying to understand what's at the bottom of these points.
Yeah. Well, what did you find?
Well, at the beginning, then, that was the first book that Yang wrote in English. And then he put out a second book where he was explaining the points based on the 14 channels. So at that time, I was really into channel theory and practicing it. So I started to integrate the points in my practice based on channel theory that I used to use until that time.
Now, which channel theory were you using at that time?
Well, there's the TCM channel theory, like Yi Tian Ni, she talks about it. I was Wang Jie's channel theory. And Jeffrey Yuan's channel theory. So I was integrating any information that I could find on channels. Not so much Japanese channel theory. It was more those three approaches.
Okay, so you're studying several kinds of channel theory. Not a bad idea, right? Different people have different ideas. And now you've got all these weird points. They don't seem to correlate to the channels. They got numbers. There's a ton of them on the hands. That's really annoying as an acupuncturist, because you have to acupuncture people's hands.
Yeah. And yeah, it's I still try to integrate all approaches together and trying to understand. Basically, the reason I studied and you want to learn more is to get better results in the clinic. That's the drive. And so you're always looking for things that work. So you start using these weird points on the hands and seeing that they are sometimes getting some good effect with them. So it encourages you to use them more, even though sometimes they are very painful when you needle them.
Do you have any tips for how to get good at needling difficult points, like on the hand? I can't think of a point on the hand that I would call pleasant.
First of all, you must use a very good quality needle. And when you needle, you must put the tip of the needle on the skin and press a little bit before you needle, desensitize the area. And then when you put the needle in, you should not use a test tube. It must be a very, very small insertion, not too deep. And then wait a second and then insert deeper. And I think that's the first tip I have. The second is to needle yourself. You really understand, you get better needling technique when you needle yourself on the fingers. It's very easy to do.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. I hadn't heard that before. Take the needle, press it lightly on the skin, make contact, literally desensitize it a little bit, and then just in a little bit, just right through the surface, and then go down to where you want to go.
Yeah, even wait it for like a half a second and then penetrate. Yeah. And of course, I tell the patient to take a deep breath, and then when they exhale, I needle.
It's always easier when they exhale, isn't it?
Yes, I find it more like going with the chi.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that too. So, yeah, working on ourselves. Any points in particular that you would recommend people use for themselves on their hand? Any kind of like really nice self-regulatory or, chi enhancing or, sleep helping, something that we could do so that as we're practicing on ourselves, we're also helping ourselves. I hate to use the word magic points, but look, man, we're all looking for a magic point, right?
Yeah, let me think about that for a second. It really depends on what you want to do. Yeah, you could use the finger points to treat nearly everything. The finger points in Masadong's acupuncture are more treating the symptoms. They are more external. They are the most young points on the system. So they are treating the acute manifestation of the problem. But I think, we have 5 fingers, and in Masadong, each finger is related to one of the 5 zang.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you could just choose like which zang you want to tonify and look to see if you could see any vessels in the area of the points on that finger. And that's where I would needle.
You would needle into like a little blood vessel or next to it?
You could needle into the blood vessel.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes it will even bleed afterwards. It's okay. It's a good reaction.
Okay. So you could even, in some ways, just go and look at the hand. If you see any small little vessels, vascularities, that would tip you off in terms of diagnosis.
Yeah, because in Masadong, his primary diagnosis tool was the palm. He used it to diagnose.
Did not know that.
Yeah, it's the most important part of the system to when you want to decide what to needle, what to do. So you start by looking at the hands. So basically, it's a 5 zang system. So there's like 5. We could diagnose the 5 zang on the palm of the hand.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's Masadong had 3 main diagnostic tools. The palm was the most important. The second one was face diagnosis that he used most of the time to help him. If the palm was not clear, he would look at the face. And in very difficult cases that the 2 other techniques did not help him, he used to use the pulse. But palm was the main system of diagnose. And, a lot of times in Masadong's acupuncture, people are looking at the points as magical. But what's magical about the system?
We're both laughing, because
Yeah.
I mean, there is that thing in our trade, like, ooh, what's the point that treats XYZ? Well, almost any point, depending on what's actually going on for someone, and can you diagnose in a way that gives you a clear sense of what's what.
Yeah, it's true. Diagnosis is very important in Masadong's acupuncture. And I think what's magical about it is the system. That's what's magical. And maybe later on we'll understand that the points are very fluidic. And acupuncture is magical.
Acupuncture is magical. Well, you know what Isaac Asimov said about magic?
No.
He said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it is. And so, we're kind of playing around with the word magic here. And, you can get tremendous results, but it's not because it's magic. It's because there is something behind it that you can see, that you can understand, that you can interact with. and then a couple of points in the right place. And I mean, it looks like magic, but behind the scenes, I suspect it's because you know that this is connected to this, is connected to this, and it's treated by that.
That's very accurate. And that's what I was trying to say, that what's magic is the system, the way of thinking, the channels that are in the way Masadong is looking at acupuncture. And I think that's what's so special about the system and not the points.
Yeah, I get it. I recently, in the past few years, have learned something about a Korean system called Sa'am. And it has a particular way of putting together the organ pairs that's different from TCM. It's a different way of organizing yin and yang channels. And once you understand that perspective, a whole new world of understanding will open up. A whole new world of looking at people will open up. So I'm curious to hear from you how you can go from, let's just call it garden variety TCM thinking, into the kind of thinking that opens up the landscape of Tung acupuncture.
Okay, so when we look at acupuncture, the most important aspect to understand first is the channels, because the points are on channels. So we always start with the channels. And the channel system in Masadong acupuncture, we have two approaches to look at this channel system, because Masadong did not really talk about the principles or ideas behind his acupuncture. You know, he accepted 75 students in his clinic, and they were watching him treat. There was no lessons. There was a book that they had. And basically, he encouraged them to figure things out for themselves. So then, you know, there are clues in his book. If you have an idea what he's talking about and you look at the book, you could find a lot of clues in the book. But so one of his students, Yang Wei-Chia, that is very famous in the West, he figured it out by looking at Masadong's points through the prism of the 14 channels. And he said these points are extra points of the 14 channels. And that's the approach I first encountered when I encountered Masadong's acupuncture. And it's a very interesting approach. And Yang was a very clever practitioner, and he influenced a lot of generations of acupuncturists, also in America and also in China. Most of his books were written in Chinese. But in 2007, Wang Chuangming wrote a book also on Masadong's acupuncture. He was also a disciple of Masadong that lived in America. And he claimed that Masadong is a different system, and it's not based on the 14 channels. It's a totally different channel system that's based on the 5 Zhang channels. So basically the question is, so what is it? The concept of thinking that there's a different channel system is mind-blowing. Like, how could that be?
Yes. Well, I mean, yes and no. Look, we have the channel system. We have law channels. We have divergent channels. We have these, extra pathway channels. I mean, it's in there a little bit, that way of thinking that there's different ways of weaving the body with channels. But it sounds like this is something connected, but different enough to merit its own sort of system.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, like the connected channels, the divergent channels, the extraordinary channels, they're all part of the same system. They are all described in the Ling Shu. They are like each channel completes the system. If you learn channel theory, you understand, especially the way Jeffrey Yuan teaches it, you could see it's like each channel has its own level of influence. The extraordinary channels, they are more the Yuan, they treat the Yuan, the TMM or more Wei Qi. So each channel has its own. Together, they are one system. But Masadong's channel system is, so basically they all together it's one system. Okay, but in Masadong's acupuncture, it's much more simpler. So there are only 5 channels. And these channels are made up of Daoma groups. Okay, so that's That's also one very interesting aspect of Ma Dong's acupuncture is that the points are organized in groups of between 2 to even 7 to 9 points that are on a line. And they are called Daoma groups. It's also a needling technique that's also special about Ma Dong's acupuncture, that you could needle between 2 to 3 points on the same line, close to one another. Each Daoma group is related to one of the 5 Zang.
Okay.
So basically, Ma Dong's channel system is segmented. It's not in a one line. It's like we can find that we take example, the heart. There's the heart channel. We'll find these Daoma groups all over the body. We find them on the fingers, on the forearm, on the arm, on the hip, and on the thorax, on the back. And if you want to look at the whole channel, you need to take all these Daoma groups and connect them together, and you'll see the heart channel. So it's more the idea of the organs reflecting themselves on the surface, towards the surface of the body, but not in one line. And in TCM, we have the lung channel is only on the upper part of the body. But in Ma Dong's acupuncture, we'll find the lung channel all over the body.
Does it run the trajectory of the tie-in channel, or could it be on other what we would consider channel pathways for the lung?
Sometimes we'll find the point on the same trajectory as the 14 channels. Okay, sometimes, but a lot of times it won't be that way. Okay?
It's a whole different way of thinking.
It's a whole different way of thinking.
It's like you have to set aside TCM. Not that TCM is wrong, but you have to kind of start from scratch.
Yeah, basically it's a different way of looking at the channels. And it's more like saying that there is something, like in TCM, this has an idea that the channel system has a physiological intent. It has a job to do in physiology. Yeah, in Ma Dong's acupuncture, the way I understand it, it's more a reaction to an imbalance in the body. So the channels are becoming active because the body is losing its balance. So the channels itself are used also to diagnose because the channels are changing because of disease. And basically, they do not exist the way I think of it today. The organ is imbalanced, so the system is balanced, then the channel does not exist.
Nothing to see. There's nothing to see here. Everything's fine.
Right.
When the organ is healthy, and if there's a problem, it will show you places of influence to intervene.
Yeah, so this will take example of the lungs. The lungs you have a disease, so the disease of the lungs will reflect in areas in the body that correspond to the lungs. And these areas were discovered by observing the surface of the body. And that's how I think they discovered all these Daoma groups, because they found that it manifests in an area, not in a point. The tissue is changing.
If you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you'll know that I'm a fan of having a small business. Running an acupuncture practice indeed requires attention to detail when it comes to managing your office. And that's why I use Jane to run my clinic. It's not just the excellent EMR or online scheduling system, both of which are a backbone to my practice. Jane also allows me to automate patient communications. They love getting text and email reminders from me, which helps to reduce no-shows. And because I choose the language for these communications, patients think I sent the message myself. They like that personal touch. I'm impressed with how flexible and scalable Jane is. From a small clinic to multiple locations and services, Jane can help you to organize the business side of the house. See how Jane can help you too by visiting jane.app/demo. Sign up for Jane and use the code CHEOLOGICAL to get a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Yes. Well, and I think this explains, too, to some degree, why points move around. You could just be doing regular TCM type acupuncture. What I would call lung 6, it can show up easily along a 4-inch pathway from the crease of the elbow, out toward the thumb. If you go palpating and looking, it moves around. It moves around a lot.
That's correct. And in Master Dong's acupuncture, the most important technique is called the undefined acupuncture point. That
I don't know why I find that funny, but it's like the undefined acupuncture point. That's almost a playful kind of a name. What does he mean by that?
So I'll give you a different saying of Dr. Hu Wenzi. He's one of Master Dong's most important students, I think. He says points that do not exist and do not have a location are better than points that exist and have a location.
Man.
So basically...
So tell me more. Basically, tell us what's going on here.
Basically, he's saying what every acupuncturist knows. This is what you said a few seconds ago, that you need to palpate and look for the point. The point is not always in the textbook, but we need to know the textbook because we need the map. We need to know where to look. The textbook is based on science, on empirical knowledge of experience from century to century, where they saw, like I think in Master Dong, changes in areas of the body, and they treated those areas, and they saw there was a response. So then they said, okay, let's try it they tried it on one patient. Patient came with cough, and they saw maybe some blood vessels in the area. So they decided maybe to do bloodletting there or needling the area. Or they saw changes in the tissue when they palpated. So they needled that area, and there was an improvement. So maybe they said, okay, let's try this on a different patient. And they saw that it was working. So maybe they said, oh, maybe this area could treat cough. And they made an indication. So I think in acupuncture, we have this precious knowledge of indications of points that's based on years, centuries of experience. So you need to know that information because you cannot look all over the body. You need to know where to look. But when you are looking, you need to look for the right spot. And I want to tell you a story about Master Dong. It's a story, when I first heard the story, this resonated in my mind for years until I really understood it. When he went to treat the Prime Minister of Cambodia after suffering from a stroke. And the Prime Minister brought in acupuncturists from all over the world, and nobody helped him. And Master Dong also got invited to treat him. And it was a very good success. He really helped him, and he became the president's private acupuncturist. And 2 of the visits were documented in 2 books. And in one of the cases, there's a description that he saw on the middle finger, on the area of the proximal joint, a blood vessel. And he decided to needle the point. And after needling the point, the Prime Minister felt his feet became warm. Now, this point was not known until that day. In the book, it's called the undefined acupuncture point. And then, after a while, that acupuncture got a name and was said, okay, this point could treat stroke. Okay, and then afterwards, students of him found that they also could treat other things. So other indications were added to the points. So it's one small story that's revealing how the system was discovered, I think.
I think, unless I'm wrong about this, correct me if I'm wrong, this also sounds like an invitation to us as practitioners to pay attention to what we see. Maybe we notice something like that little blood vessel or just the way the tissue feels. And we go, what's that? What point is that? It's not any point that I know, but if it's showing up on the body, it's an indication that something's up. So you could use it and then see what happens. And then you have to pay attention to what it does.
That's the message. That's what I understood from this case. Exactly that. It's very inspiration that sometimes you need to think out of the box. And that's also, there's a saying of Ma Zedong that when he encountered a problem that he didn't know what to do, he kept silent for a few minutes and concentrated and looked for the undefined acupuncture point. And, we are dealing with a very special medicine. It's like because of the shin.
Mm.
The shin is like a very important part of the medicine. And, a lot of times patients come to me and say something like very hard and very difficult. And, I don't know what to say to them. So I pause for a few minutes and I wait. I said, okay, I'll wait until I have the right thing to say. And I think that's very important to sometimes it's okay not to know what to do and just wait a while.
It's a very funny business that we're in because our job is to help people and to know how to help them. They often bring us very strange and difficult problems. And there is this aspect of being able to be friendly with ourselves and to be friendly in those moments of uncertainty, not just stay away from the uncertainty, but kind of embrace it a bit and see what else might be there. I find it a very curious aspect of practicing acupuncture, that there's this not knowing that happens, but that doesn't stop us. That allows us to inquire in a way that lets us, I love what you just said, find the undefined acupuncture.
Right. And before you know something, you don't know. So it's natural not to know before you know. So it's okay, I'm not knowing something, but in the future I'll know. You always don't know before you know. So it's okay. Don't get anxiety from not knowing.
Man, I wish my 20-year-old self would have heard that.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me that part of the thinking that you need to go through if you're going to practice Tung-style acupuncture, there's a sense of the channels that we have, but you kind of put that to the side. There are these groups of points. It's more about these groups of points and the influences that they have. It almost sounds like a coalition government. You got this group, you got that group, these two groups work together,
Yeah, and that's also a very special aspect of Ma Zedong's acupuncture because in his book, he gets to the, in Chinese and Chinese point indication books, they have the location and then they have the anatomy of the point. And most times in the anatomy, they describe the anatomy that's present in the area of the point. But in Ma Zedong, he writes like the kidney nerve. And there is no such kidney nerve on the extremity. And basically, today we know that he's using the nerve, but he is actually, in the earlier book, he called it the kidney channel. So each point is allocated a channel, and some points are related to a few channels. So each point, the most important aspect of the system is to look at this innervation, or sometimes it's called reaction area. It's very interesting that Ma Zedong asked, he have had 5 books. The first is the book he gave to the students. It's called the 1964 Notes. It's more like notes. And then he published his 1973 book. That's the main book. And one of the third book is a book that was translated, that he requested one of his students to translate into English, Pedlin Carson. So we translated the 1973 book into English. By the way, all of these 3 books are available on the internet because Yuan Goben, the author of the main book, digitized the books that were out of print so they'll be available to the public. So they all are available to read in PDF. So Pedlin Carson translated the book into English, and instead of nerve, he translated it as reaction area. And I think that's more correct because, like I said, these groups are reacting to the imbalance. When there's imbalance in the body, these points will start to react. And it's very strange. Needling them helps the body regain its health back. Now, in TCM, there are the internal pathways showing us how the organs are how the channels are connecting to the organs. In Macedon, there's no internal pathways. We don't know how they connect. We just, from observation and treating, we see there's a connection, but we don't need to explain how this connection is happening. So it's like it's a reaction area. It's reacting.
So there's some mechanism where the inside of the body is communicating with the outside of the body. And it seems to be quite nonlinear, right? It doesn't follow these lines or these watersheds that we learned in basic acupuncture school.
Yeah, it's more, yeah, I think, the internal pathways of the channel really don't exist. It's more a way of explaining how the channel is working. I personally do not believe that these internal pathways exist. I know there's some people trying to prove it through anatomy, looking at anatomy planes and all kind of ideas. But if you really go into it very accurately, you see there's always a problem with all these descriptions. I think it's more a concept, an idea. It's a way of drawing an idea, putting a way of thinking on the body, presenting it to remember it and trying to reflect the concept.
Fair enough. I mean, I think this is how we work as human beings in general. We experience some kind of phenomena. We notice something about it. Maybe we want to avoid it. Maybe we want more of it because we enjoyed it. How do I recreate that? Or how do I avoid that? What's the mechanism? What's happening here? I think it's something natural that I think our brains do.
Yeah, but sometimes it's also good to say, I do not know, and leave it as an enigma. We don't know a lot of things. And that you could do it that way, and especially when you need to pass information from one generation to one generation and you want to pass. So a picture could also very help this concept. But I don't know. I'm not sure that they really believe that these pathways really exist. I really don't know. But when you look at them, it doesn't look sometimes as like something that is anatomy related. They like the gallbladder channel. It's like zigzagging. And it's more an idea of the gallbladder that he's a decision making. So, when we try to make a decision, we are like zigzagging back and forward before we know where to go. And it's also like between the Shaoyang is between the Yang Min and the Taiyang. It's like in the center, so it's moving between the two. So it's a concept, not maybe. That's how I look at it, and it's not only I say that. What I understand from like Jeffrey Yuan, he also says the channel system is more an idea, a way of thinking, than really a system, a real identity. But I don't know the answer.
Look, you've studied quite a bit of channel theory in different traditions, right? Each of those will give you a piece of the map, so to speak. But I think anyone who's exploring any new territory, I mean, maybe you've got a map, but mostly you're wandering through that territory, trying to make sense of it. Oh, there's a mountain here, there's a river here.
Yeah, you need a map. If you don't have a map, you need to have a map to navigate. And you need to have the system, you need to have the channels. Otherwise, it's just like you are alone in the wilderness and you don't know where to go. So it helps you go. But the map is very important. And the map is made from a lot of empiric information. And the map, we can't separate the map from the points and the indications of the points. So I think the map is very important. It's not, but you must also have some skepticism regarding the map. You should use it, but also be flexible when using it.
Yes. Well, and in this case, the Tung map, again, it sounds like it's more about areas of influences. There's some major points that kind of anchor those areas, but there's also these points that show up. They don't really have a name. They're kind of asking you to discover them.
Yes, and that's the most interesting aspect of acupuncture. But you can't, if you start by telling a student saying, listen, you must find the point. You must find the undefined acupuncture point. That's the worst thing you could tell a student. So at the beginning, you must learn the map and learn the precise location. And then after you know the map, you could say, okay, this map is a flexible map. And you should use it in that way. And you must look and observe, look at the body, see changes on the skin, see blood vessels, discolorations, sometimes hair. You could see in the area of the point. When you start looking at the points, you start seeing all kind of changes in the points. And the points are never, sometimes they are like in the book, but they move. So you need to look for them and find where to needle. But at the beginning, you need to first learn the map, because if you don't have the map, you can't start looking at all over the body. And also, we want to use the experience of generations and generations that they found a lot of areas that could treat certain conditions. So we want to check these areas to see if they are reacting.
I mean, that makes sense. Before you go looking for those undefined points, go look and see if there's something that other people have noticed before on a pretty reliable basis that might be useful.
Right.
So what are some of these Dao Ma areas that you like to pay attention to?
Well, first of all, Master Dong's acupuncture diagnosis is the most important aspect. When you look at his cases, there's always a diagnosis. And the diagnosis is based on the 5 Zang. So the treatment is like any TCM treatment. We treat the root and then the branch. And the root is the 5 Zang, which 5 Zang are involved in the condition. So Master Dong used to look at the palm. And like I said before, there's 5 fingers. Each finger is related to one of the Zangs. And after diagnosing the Zang, we must treat the Zang. And there are 2 main areas in Master Dong's acupuncture that are very powerful. And one of the areas is an area that is not needled in TCM. It's the area, it's called the 88 area. It's the phi area. And on the phi, we have the most powerful points to treat the Zang. And we'll find groups of points, groups of Dao Ma that are related to each of the 5 Zang. We also find some areas, some groups of points related to the Zang on the 77 area. That's the shin, the lower leg.
Okay.
So these are the 2.
So you got areas on the palm, you got areas kind of stomach channel-ish, if you were speaking in channels?
Yeah, the stomach channel is like in Master Dong acupuncture is more related to the heart and the lung and the spleen.
What, could you just give me a quick little lesson here on the hand and the different fingers and the Zang that they're associated with? And I'm just wondering if I might be able to. I mean, I got some patients coming this afternoon. I always like trying out new stuff.
Well, yeah, it's very simple. It's the thumb is the spleen. The index, the second finger is the lung. So it's like the large intestine in TCM. The middle finger is the heart. The 4th finger is the liver. And the 5th is the kidney. Okay, so if you diagnose the spleen, the first thing you must do is treat the points on the 77 area or the 88 area that relate to the spleen. Like if somebody knows Master Dong's acupuncture, the 3 weights, 77, 05, 6, and 7 are the most important points to treat the spleen. Okay, and if it's the heart, there's a Dauma group that will treat the heart. 88, 1, 2, and 3. It's the 3 penetrating points of the leg. And the lung has Sima, the very famous Dauma group. So each of the organs has its own Dauma group that it's the most important thing to treat the root. I think what's making Master Dong's acupuncture so powerful is we're using the upper leg, where in TCM we don't really use it a lot. We have like liver 9, spleen 10, stomach 35, but in Master Dong we needle this area all the time, and it's a very powerful area, really very powerful area. And then the second, and not as most as important as treating the root, is treating the branch. And then we look for points that could treat the symptoms of the patient. So if a patient comes from migraine and we diagnose the spleen, so we ask ourselves, are there any points that could treat migraines that are related to the spleen? So basically, it's a very simple system. It's less complicated than the TCM. Okay, Master Dong also says that my system is. It's interesting, in the preface of his book, he says that.
Okay, again, be careful about touching the desk. Okay.
Master Dong says in his preface of his 1973 book, he writes that his channels are different to the 14 channels. He says that, and he says the points are also different to the points of the 14 channels.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have 3 things you're paying attention to. You have the root, you have the branch, and then you have the symptom, and you're attending to all 3 of these simultaneously. Do I have that right?
Right. Yeah, that's true. And when you look for the symptom points, we also want to find points that are related to the diagnose, what we diagnosed. Okay? Because each point has its own innervation, its own reaction area related to one of the 5 zangs. But then when we come to look at the points, we want to see if they are reacting, if they are, we palpate,
Are they actually there and available to you?
Right. So that's the 4th aspect. We need to see where to needle. So this system is maybe a lot of Yang used to say that because Master Dong uses Dauma groups, it's an indication that this system is very, very ancient. It's before the 14 channels were discovered, because if we look at the cultivations related to acupuncture, there's always this question, what came first, the points or the channels?
Yes, that's an old argument that you could go over around and around and around with.
But in 1973, they discovered the Mao Wan Dui cultivation. They discovered the oldest discovery regarding acupuncture, and they found writings that were describing the channels, 11 channels with no points. So today we understand that the channels were before the points. And they treated on these, they were lines, 11 lines. And on these lines, they did moxibation or bian. They used stone, and also did bloodletting. And they were working on areas. And in Master Dong, it's the same. We are working on areas all the time. And afterwards, when they developed the needles, like chapter 1 of the Suen, it's the Yellow Emperor says, listen, I want to show you a great discovery. I want to show you how to use needles and stop using stone, stop doing bloodletting. And the areas, they turned into points. But in Master Dong's acupuncture, we are still using areas. So they say that this system is more, also, not only the practitioners of Master Dong say that, also Master Dong said that the system is very old. So it's more primitive. It's before the develop of channel theory like we know today, that we have so many channels and they go into the body. It's a more simpler way to look at acupuncture.
I don't know if I'd call it more primitive. It certainly sounds like another way of making sense of the human body and how it regulates itself. It's been around a long time. Could it be that it's a method that somehow, for whatever reason, just didn't get written into the Nanjing, right? We usually look at the Nanjing as a way of understanding acupuncture, right? Most of us are very fond about quoting some Nanjing number to give credence to whatever acupuncture method or idea that we're using. But it sounds like Dong-style acupuncture maybe didn't make the cut into that book, or maybe there were other books that got lost, or I don't know, maybe just, some things become popular and written down and other things don't.
Yeah, we'll never know, but also things were kept secret.
Well, there's that too, for sure.
Yeah, they were like kept in the family. And
Yes, and for good reason.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know what's true and not true, if Master Dong's acupuncture is so old like he claims. But he tells us it was a family secret, and he decided to reveal the secret. And he talks about it.
Did he get in trouble for that?
No, because, he grew up in China, and he was part of the Nationalist Party, and he was fighting the communists. And when they lost the war, they moved to Taiwan with Chiang Kai-shek. And he decided to reveal the family secret because he was the only one to continue this tradition, to have this acupuncture benefit the people. Like he's saying, I don't want to keep it as a secret anymore. This acupuncture could help a lot of people. I want to teach people how to use it. And also he says to keep the culture, not to lose the Chinese culture. Yeah, there was the Chinese cultural revolution at that time. So he wanted to not let this tradition be lost.
In clinic, there is no such thing as a small detail. The needle you reach for, the formula you prescribe, the Sanfu Tian treatment plan you've been preparing for. Your patients place their trust in you, and you deserve to place that same trust in tools that you use. At Blue Poppy, they hold their products to the same standard that you hold your care. Herbal formulas crafted for consistency, needles that perform the way you expect them to, clinic essentials that arrive on time. As Sanfu Tian approaches, now is the time to stock your clinic with the formulas, moxin needles, and essentials you rely on most. Because when your tools are dependable, your focus stays where it belongs, on your patients. No guesswork, no compromises, just steady support behind the scenes. Blue Poppy, the choice of practitioners since 1982. It's so fascinating how history works itself out. Here's Dong. He grows up in China, ends up in Taiwan because running for his life, like a bunch of people had to do. And then you get the Cultural Revolution in China, which really destroys so much of Chinese culture. And here he is in Taiwan having a response to that by saying, let's make sure this stuff stays alive and gets out, into a larger crowd of people using it so that it continues and people are helped. It's so curious how different people respond to troublesome events.
That's true, and he successed. He managed to do it because I'm here talking about Dong's acupuncture. I don't know if what he would say about that. I'm not part of the lineage or anything. So, and he also asked his book to be translated in English. So he did have some intention that this acupuncture spread out of China, out of Taiwan.
Well, I would actually say you are part of the lineage. Why do I say that? Because we're sitting here having this conversation. You have managed to find your way into it. You've gone and studied it in Taiwan. You've spent time doing the work. So you've opened yourself up to it. It's kind of come into your life. It's changed how you work. You're part of the Dhamma of, I mean, you can think of this in some ways, in sort of sociological or cultural ways, that there are different areas that have influence. And you happen to be an area of influence for Tung style acupuncture.
Yeah, it's true, but I still have like respect to, the lineage. And, in Chinese, you need to get the, like Hu Wenzi, you want to be a student of Hu Wenzi, you need to go, they say, go through the door.
Of course.
Like, yeah, so it's...
I mean, you can't just grab a tradition and say, this is mine. You can go and investigate one and see if it resonates with you and, build a relationship. All this stuff comes through relationship. How else do we learn other than through relationship?
That's true.
Now, I was looking at your website before starting this conversation. I always just kind of like to see I just like to look at people's websites mostly. And I'm always looking for a couple of questions like what's this cat up to? What should we talk about? There's another aspect in addition to the stuff that we've talked about. There are some things that you've looked at from yet another influence, Nogier's work.
Yeah.
And because you're the kind of, enzymatic guy that you are and putting things together, you brought something together of this Taiwanese acupuncture and something from French auricular acupuncture.
Yeah, it's very interesting how I came to use this French acupuncture. I'm mostly talking about what the vascular autonomic signal. That's like I think it's one of the most important discoveries in our generation in acupuncture. He discovered that when you stimulate an acupuncture point, and he discovered it by chance, with even your finger or with a metal probe or with magnets or laser or even colors, filters, if the point is active or there's a resonance between the information you're bringing to the point and the point, there's a autonomic response. The pulse, and that you could feel in the pulse. So there's like a nerve signal going to the brain, and then there's a FFF reaction, fight, flight, and freeze. And one of these reactions is the blood flow to the extremities is increasing. The blood vessels are dilating. So you could feel the pulse getting broader for like four or 5 or 6 beats. And then it comes back to the beginning part. And if you do it again, you stimulate the point again, it will happen again. Okay?
That's interesting. So it doesn't get broad and stay broad. It's just like, right, it opens up and comes back.
Yeah, for like a few beats. Like it happens and then like 1, 2, 3, and it comes back down again. So basically it's a way of looking for these reactive points that I was talking to before.
Shaun, I just want to interject something here because, oh my gosh, I have felt this, but I didn't know I was feeling it. Because I'll put my finger on the pulse. I think this point is doing something. I'll touch it. I'll do something. I just want to interact with it for a moment. I'll feel a change in the pulse, like, oh yeah, that's good. And then it goes back. It's like, oh yeah, maybe not so good. Maybe I've been misreading this. Maybe I've misunderstood what I was feeling.
That's exactly what Paul Nogier felt. But he said, oh, wow, that's interesting. And he discovered it. And that's correct. And you could feel it. You could feel this change in the pulse with your finger too. Also with the needle. You're describing the phenomenon, okay? So the reason I got to use this technique is through the palm diagnosis. Because how can you study palm diagnosis? To study palm diagnosis, you need a master. You need to go to somebody that knows the palm and be in his clinic for a few years and look at what he's looking in the palm and says, you see this? This has significant. You need to have somebody. You cannot do it. You can do it by yourself, but you need to have somebody telling you, yes, that's right. That's the sign. I didn't have a master like that, so I said, maybe I could use the vas on the palm, and the vas will be my master. And I will scan the palm and see, yeah.
What are you scanning it with?
So in auricular medicine, there's they use a hammer. People cannot see it, but it's like you could.
I can see it. Let me see that thing. Hold it up. Oh, it is like a little hammer. So it's like a little sensor kind of thing.
Yeah, but we don't turn it on. It's like it's information that we're bringing to the point. It's the same if you use your finger.
Okay.
You could use also the finger, but they develop.
Could I use like a teishin needle?
Yeah, it would be great.
Like a Japanese teishin? Okay.
I think so, yeah. You could even use something like this. Okay? But this
you could use a toothpick.
Yeah. Yeah, you could use a toothpick. Yeah. You could use the needle itself. Also, they also use like a gold and silver hammer. These instruments, they make the reaction is stronger. They're like amplifiers.
Right. You want to amplify it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So basically, you've got this little hammer with gold and silver, or you could use a teishin or whatever. The idea is to amplify what's happening at that point and then see if you get the vas signal as a way of understanding for yourself, yes, this point is useful, or nope, didn't get a signal, so look somewhere else.
Right. So that's how I started using it, and I use it for diagnose. And I used to say, okay, this active, let me see what I could see in the skin. And that's how I started learning palm diagnosis. And then one day I said, okay, maybe I'll try looking at the Dharma groups.
Why not?
Yeah, not like years afterwards. It's not like, and then I started seeing that they are reacting. Okay, and this developed when you get this opportunity to ask yes or no questions. Is it active or not? You start discovering things. And, one of the biggest secrets in Master Dong's acupuncture is the needle depth. How deep to needle? That's a question when we needle. And
I think it's a question for all acupuncture, isn't it?
Yes. It's like
right place, right direction, right depth, right stimulation.
Right direction. It's like the right place, the right angle, and the right depth. It's a three-dimensional, and the point is three-dimensional. So and it's hard to know where. And Master Dong, in a few points, he tells you to the depth of this, it will treat that. Like a Hafetsun will treat heart problems. One Sun will treat lung problems. Okay, so he has these indications. So one day, I was holding the needle and taking the pulse. And I was moving the needle deeper, and suddenly the vas disappeared. And until that day, I used to think that if I touch the needle and there's a vas, that means I needled in the right place. And that day, everything changed. I said, I want to get rid of the vas because the vas is telling us that there's something wrong. The point is active. So I want this to go to the right depth that will make this vas disappear. And that's how I also discovered how to needle to the right depth using the vascular autonomic signal.
Okay, so the vascular autonomic signal, the pulse is going to broaden for a few beats. And that's telling you, okay, this point is active. But you're looking to get to a place where that point is no longer active because it's been treated. So does the pulse go back to where it was, or does it change into something else? What's the signal that you're picking up that says, I've got it?
When you put a needle in a point that before needling it, you had a vas, and you hold the handle of the needle, it will create a vas. Okay? So, but if you put it to the right needle depth, if you move the needle and wait for the vas to disappear, okay, then you're in the right depth of the needle, because the vas is a response to imbalance. So we want to get rid of it. And the needle needs to stay in for a long time. That's also one of my characters of Master Tung. We leave the needles in for more than 40 minutes, even 45 minutes if we can, because the point needs to do something that I don't understand. But after taking the needle out, there's no vas anymore. Sometimes there still is, but a lot of times the vas that I felt before has disappeared.
I've just got one part that I'm still not understanding. It sounds like when you first feel the vas, it will be there for a few beats and then it disappears.
Right.
So how do you tell the difference between the vas naturally disappearing after a few beats and getting the needle to the place where it makes the vas disappear?
No, because when you hold the needle, the vas will stay. It's like it won't disappear straight away. It will be strong, and then you move the needle, okay, and it goes deep. When you stimulate from the outside a point, you don't touch the skin. You could touch the skin, but it will like be 4 beats and disappear. But when the needle is in and you holding the needle, the vas continues, okay?
Okay.
Until you like bring it to the right depth, and then suddenly it changes. And it happens in a few seconds, okay? It's not like take long, because you're just like moving it deeper and playing with the needle to find the right depth. When you come up again, it will return the vas.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you must try it. You already feel it, so you just must.
Okay. All right. There's a distinction there. All right. I'll go play with that. That sounds great.
Yeah. It's like, I know it's a lot of technical information and a lot of, it's without even knowing what I'm talking about and feeling it. But you describe really where you touch a point and you feel the change in the pulse. But there's a lot of changes we could feel. It's not the rhythm of the pulse. It's the pulse is getting bigger. Okay. It's like,
the character of the pulse.
it's a very unique character. It's not like getting faster and sometimes it's only 1 beat, because sometimes you could feel this 1 beat. It's not significant. It needs to be for like 3 to 4 beats.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Something that.
Yeah. I'm really keen to go explore this because I know I have felt this, but I was misunderstanding what I was feeling.
Yeah. I'm sure the way you described it, I'm sure you did. It's just like taking the pulse.
So this will be fun.
Taking the pulse while looking for a point. We normally don't do that. Normally we like take the pulse and then think what we're going to do and then needle.
Well, the way I was trained.
Yeah, you were trained.
Yeah. I mean, we were trained to put our hands on people and feel things and then check and see if things changed. Did the tongue change? Did the pulse change? If you're listening to cranial rhythm, did that change? I mean, the schooling that I had, at a very basic level, TCM, here's a pulse, that means this, I'll treat that. But I had quite a few teachers from some different traditions, and they were very keen on when you're on a point, even if it's not on the channel and where you think there's a point, if you find something and you can notice changes, especially in the pulse, that means pay attention. You've got something there. Go fishing there, so to speak.
So like taking the pulse at the same time when you're palpating for the point.
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
You had good teachers.
Yeah, I've been lucky.
You've been lucky. Wow.
I've been lucky. What can I say?
But it's interesting because that means that there was this kind of idea in the tradition that you are looking for points while taking the pulse. I just want one remark. We take the pulse with 1 finger, okay, at the guan position.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's 1 finger. It's like this and the change is happening in the pulses in all the body. You could also feel it on the carotid artery or anywhere you could feel the pulse, you'll feel the change. So 2 people can be taking the pulse at the same time and feeling the same reaction.
At different parts of the body.
Yeah, because it happens in the whole body. It doesn't happen only.
This must be super fun to teach to people.
Yeah, because like I have students in my clinic and they take the pulse with me, and that's how they learn it. Okay.
Well, Shaun, this has really been fun. I feel like we could probably go for another hour or two, but I should probably wind it down, at least for today. We may have to come back and talk about more because I feel like there's a lot. And it just occurred to me also, I used to live in Taiwan and I bought a number of books. Some of them are not even on my bookshelf at this point because it's like, I don't know if I'm ever going to have time to read them. And so they're just kind of in storage. But one of the books that I remember buying is a book on palm diagnosis. And I think I'm going to have to go dig that out and go take a look. It was one of those things I bought as a curiosity, but I never felt that compelled to look into it. But now I'm really curious after talking with you about this.
I just wanted to say one comment because I also wanted to read every book I could find about palm diagnosis when I wanted to get into palm diagnosis. And I have 2 books on palm diagnosis in a Chinese medicine perspective. And Master Dong is a bit different because there they look at the lines. And the lines is more talking about your Ming, your destiny, and what you are doing with your destiny. But in Master Dong acupuncture, we're not looking at the lines. We are looking at the low channels, what's happening with your qi and blood in this moment. And it's more discolorations, or we do look at areas that are more pronounced or more depressions, but basically it's more the colors than the lines. The lines are not what we look at.
Okay. Well, I feel like I've gotten a couple of clues today and some fun ideas to go explore. So I appreciate it. Shaun, anything else that you would like to share with us today before we wind it down?
I think I talked too much already.
I don't think so. I think we could go on for a long time.
I don't know. Not that I could really think of. Not in this moment. I really don't have anything more to say.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the sharing of your experience of really, it's an extraordinary method. It's not the usual TCM. And a lot of people talk about Dong style acupuncture and Tan balance method. There's so many ways to think about acupuncture, and it's wonderful that we have these other traditions beyond the textbook TCM. If nothing else, to expand our mind into thinking about how we interact with people. And I really appreciate all you've shared today with being able to look for the things that you don't know are there, but you find a way to them.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to talk on the podcast. I really enjoyed it.
It's been fun. Well, until next time then.
Till next time.
Well, friends, that's it for this conversation with Shaun. There are always a few things about a conversation that I find myself thinking about the next time I'm in clinic. His thoughts on the undefined acupuncture point. That has been floating through my mind, and it's given me the permission to be open to noticing points being a bit, or maybe significantly, off the usual map. And more so, how my mind wants to somehow make them snap to grid so they fit my comfortable mental model of the world. I think it is helpful to get shaken out of my comfortable feeling of knowing, as it leaves me more open to what I've been overlooking. Like looking to the palm as a way of diagnosing, or using the pulse to listen for the vascular autonomic signal. From this conversation, I am also reminded that when the body is in a healthy balance, acupuncture points don't show themselves. Their reactivity is both a signal that something is off and a gateway for intervening with treatment. Every time I feel like I'm getting a handle on how acupuncture works, something comes along that invites me to remain a student.